I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be, it hurts when she moves on. Well, I don't know how many breakups you've been through in your life, but you may or may not have noticed that in most cases that women tend to get over a breakup quicker than a guy does. And what I see a lot from a lot of guys, especially like when I was in those situations when I was younger and I was getting dumped and scratching my head and wondering what the fuck happened, what did I do wrong, where did I go wrong, and you're all emotionally wrapped up in this girl. And then either you see her out or one of your buddies sees her out and she's all over some other dude days or a couple of weeks after you're together, and it seems like she's totally into him, like she's a different person, and you meant nothing, and that just makes you feel worse. So I've got a quick email here from a guy who's kind of in that situation. He says, "Hey Coach, your tips and advice help so much. I haven't been with my girl for a while and I just found out she is seeing someone. What shocks me is that it's like she isn't the same person anymore. In a few months she has changed so much. I don't know why, but the pain from the breakup came rushing back to me. I miss the friendship we had, but for some reason it's like she's completely cut me out of her life. That's because she's totally moved on." What you got to understand about women is that most of the time women do the dumping, and so when it gets to that point, a woman will usually line up a couple of guys or a couple of prospects to replace you with, and she'll basically stick around with you to the point where she really doesn't have feelings for you anymore, just because you're continually doing things that turn her off, and you're probably not listening to the things she's telling you about that she doesn't like. Because a big argument that women have is that we never listen. We don't pay attention. But if you know what to look for, because I deal with this all the time in guys that I coach, and I tell them that starts telling me the things that she complained about or the things that she didn't like or the things that she felt he was doing wrong. And the guy will hear these things, but he'll think they're innocuous and unimportant and they really don't matter. And so as I go back through, I point out that she was telling you all along what you were doing wrong, hoping that you would correct it. But since the guys don't really understand what she's saying and it doesn't sink in, it's usually after the breakup happens that they end up wondering where they went wrong. And so when I point these things out, then they start to get it and they start to see. And so what will happen is your interest level will still be high in her, meanwhile hers is going in the opposite direction. And since we tend to project our high interest onto the other person, it's like we ignore all those little things because we think, oh, well, she's with us, so she must feel the same way we do, which is not the case. And so that's why it's so easy for them to move on, is because in a lot of cases the woman will stay with you, your girl will stay with you to the point where she just really doesn't feel anything for you anymore, and she doesn't really care either way. And then when she actually does the deed of breaking up with you, it's because she's usually met somebody else, or a couple of guys want to go out with her, and she's got a replacement lined up. And so it's very easy for her, just because women know instinctively that you got to get back up on the horse, so to speak. You got to date somebody new in order to quickly get over a breakup once it happens. He says, "I don't know." He says, "It hurts and I'm tired. I know my mistakes and I know it wasn't the best relationship, but I miss being friends like we were before we dated. I was on her Facebook recently and saw that she deleted all trace of us ever being in a relationship. It makes me sad." And I know, it's like she takes all the pictures down. I remember one of my ex-girlfriends, it was probably 10, 12 years ago. I was over at her house, and we had pictures that we had taken of me and her daughter and her family. They were framed, and they were hanging up in her house. And the frames were still there, but all the pictures that had me in it were completely gone. And I thought, God, that was pretty fucking brutal and cruel. But hey, they don't want to be reminded of the fact that it didn't work out. And so, I mean, women are just simply better in that respect, because they'll usually have a replacement lined up, or they are talking to somebody, and then they'll break up with you, and then they'll start going out with that other guy a day or two or a week or two later, and it just seems like they didn't care about you at all. And in reality, that's partially true, because they stayed with you to the point where they just simply didn't feel anything for you anymore. So when the breakup finally happened, it really didn't bother them, because they just emotionally didn't feel anything for you anymore, and they had met somebody new, and they start dating like nothing ever happened. And usually the guy, at least I remember when I was in those situations, and since I deal with this stuff all the time, it's always the guy that finds out he thought everything was great, and then she dumps him. And so it takes time to grieve and to get over that, because it's like when you get dumped, even though you might not really... I was talking to one of my clients the other day. He was dating a girl he really didn't give a shit about, and he wasn't that into. He was just kind of hanging out and hooking up with her, and she was wanting him to be her boyfriend. And he really wasn't down with that. He really wasn't into that. And then a few days ago, over this past week, she gave him the Let's Just Be Friends speech, where they could still hang out and hook up, be friends with benefits, basically, but she didn't want to be in a relationship with him. And all of a sudden now, he's like, oh, I'm ready to be in a relationship with you. And he starts telling her these things. And the only reason he's really telling her this is because he doesn't want to lose what he had, because it was easy, and he was lazy, he was complacent. And what happened was he got in a rut because this girl was really attractive. On a scale of 1 to 10, she was maybe a 6 or a 7 in his book. So she wasn't like bad enough to where he didn't want to be with her anymore, and she also wasn't good enough to the point where he actually wanted to go out and continue dating. So what happened was he got comfortable, he got lazy, focused on his business, and so the relationship he was having with her was really mediocre, and he wasn't really trying that hard. And so then when she ends the relationship, it's like the person that gets dumped always, it's basically their level of attraction doubles, and then they think, oh, I'm in love with her, I'm going to marry her, she's a perfect girl, I was stupid, I fucked up. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's like just what happens because you weren't ready for the relationship to end, even though deep down you know it needed to end, but because the other person, the woman, was the one who did the deed, who did the breakup, then you think, oh my God, I'm in love with this girl, I lost the love of my life or whatever, because I deal with this all the time. I help guys get their wives back, their girlfriends back. And then at the end of the day, when you get back together with that person, it's like all those things that turned you off about them before, guess what? They're still there. They're still the same person. And so 99% of the time when I help a guy get his girl or his wife back, they usually don't stay together, because after a couple of months, they realize that at the end of the day, they had stopped putting their best foot forward at some point because she wasn't doing it for them. But most people are scared to go along on their own. I mean, that's why I got married, because I was afraid I'd never meet anybody better than my ex-wife, and so that's why I went ahead and married her. But I was just young, and I was weak, and I was inexperienced, and I didn't have the balls to end the relationship. But it was only after being married for a year that I realized that I wasn't listening to my heart, and I finally grew a set of balls, and I ended the relationship. I ended the marriage, and it was tough to move on, but you have to do it. So if you're in that situation, you got to realize that at some point you stop putting your best foot forward, and there's a reason for that. And so even if you do get her back, the same things that turned you off before, they're still there. And they'll turn you off again once you get back together. And how do I know? Because I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I coach literally hundreds and hundreds of guys how to get their wives back or their girlfriends back, and they've gotten them back. And all eventually, usually within 3 to 6 months, the relationship ends. But that time it ends for good, because they got to experience getting her back, and they realized that she still turned them off. Maybe they didn't have a connection, or maybe their values weren't aligned, or whatever. So if you have a question that you want to ask me, or there's a topic you want me to cover in a future video newsletter, go to my website, click the Contact Me tab, which is going to be on the left-hand side of your screen. Send me 1 to 2 paragraphs max detailing your questions, your situation, your challenges. And you just got to give me several days to get back to you with a response, because I get a lot of email from the internet. And I also get a lot of it from my paying phone coaching customers. But be patient, and I will get back to you. And if you want to talk to me right away, the quickest way to get my help is to book a coaching session. And you can do that by going to my website, click the Products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions. If you want to get a digital version of my Kindle ebook, you don't have to have a Kindle device. On my website, underneath the email sign-up box, is another box that has a link that will take you to the Amazon Kindle download page for my book. Once you get there, on the right-hand side is a button that will take you to another page where you can download a free Kindle e-reader app for your Android smartphone, your Android tablet, your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, your PC, whatever device you want to read my book on. They've already got an app for it. It's totally free to download the app. It takes a matter of seconds to download that and install it, and then it only takes a few more seconds to download my book, and you'll be reading it in no time. And I will talk to you soon.